Do you feel like you'll have tight hamstrings forever? If the muscles on the backs of your legs feel very tight in yoga poses, this practice is for you. Let's begin. Now, some people might think that this is cheating a little bit, but I like to use a massage gun. And a massage gun can be very useful for getting the connective tissue to get hydrated so that you can really enjoy your practice so much better. And I'm not advocating any particular type of massage gun, but the massage gun is a wonderful way to be nice to your hamstrings. And I found that if you berate your hamstrings, if you get frustrated with your hamstrings, it's probably not going to help your yoga practice in those poses that really require both hamstring engagement and hamstring elongation. Another tip, maybe someone would call this cheating too, is a tennis ball. I've got a tennis ball in the toe of a sock. During your day, you can sit down, place your tennis ball underneath your thigh, and just cross fiber back and forth the muscles and the backs of the legs to get a little bit more freedom in the hamstrings. You can also do this on the floor, but it's so much easier sitting on a chair. So those are two hamstring helpers that might be effective as kind of a warm-up before you do this practice. You may find it useful to have a strap and blocks. We'll begin by lying down on our back with your knees bent. Draw your right knee in toward your heart. Release your right foot down to the mat. Draw your left knee in. Let's draw it in for a lot of hip flexion. Release your foot down. Draw your right knee in, and this time interlace your fingers behind the thigh, just right in the belly of the hamstring muscles there. Pull the thigh in, this nice hip flexion again. Draw your toes now as if you're trying to draw them over your head. So now we start to engage the muscles of the back leg by spreading the toes. Now on the next exhale breath, reach your foot up toward the sky to come toward a straight leg version of this pose. Bend your knee again. Draw it a little bit deeper, so strong use of the hands. And on the exhale breath, reach the heel away from your chest. Bend your knee the third time. Draw it a little bit closer to you and reach your right leg toward a straight leg position. Bend your knee and place your right leg and left leg on the floor and just see if you can tell any difference. Maybe the back side of the leg feels just slightly more engaged now. Bend both knees again. Draw your left thigh in. Interlace your fingers at the back of the thigh. Reach your left toes toward the front of your mat. On the exhale, reach up and bend your knee again. Just feel how the muscles just work against your interlaced fingers as you exhale and reach your heel high as the toes spread. And bend your knee, draw in, reach out now on the exhale. Expand the backside of the leg, just bringing your awareness to the hamstring muscles to offer some help. Release your foot down. Roll over to your belly. interlace your fingers with your forearms down on the mat. Have your elbows just slightly narrower than your shoulders. Tuck your toes under to come up to your knees. Walk your knees in. Tuck your toes under to lift your knees up off the mat. Lift your pelvis high and relax your head. Walk your feet in. Reach your right leg in the air really high to stretch the back side of the leg as you draw the left heel toward the mat. Now slowly release your right leg. Come to a plank position. Look forward and draw your knees down and your chest down. Place your hands right in alongside your ribs and inhale. Draw your heart forward. Exhale and soften. Now interlace your fingers again with your elbows slightly narrower than the shoulders, with your toes tucked under. Lift up. Walk your knees in. As you're ready, lift your pelvis up to come to downward facing dog on your forearms, or dolphin pose as it's sometimes called. Walk your feet in just a little bit more. Take your left leg up. Draw your right heel down. Release your left foot. Step back to a plank position. Draw your knees down, the tops of the thighs down. Place your hands alongside your ribs. Inhale, just a baby cobra to open the chest nicely. Exhale and soften down. Come up through all fours position to downward facing dog. And pause there. Now that we've done a little work on the backs of the legs, maybe you can just kind of pedal the legs by bending the right knee and reaching your left heel toward the mat. Bend your left knee as you reach your right heel to the mat. Do that one more cycle. Bend your right knee, reach from the pelvis down to the heel to stretch the back side of the leg. Bend your left knee as you draw from the pelvis down to the heel to stretch the back side of the leg. Come back to downward facing dog. Step your right foot right between your hands. Bring your back knee to the earth. I like using blocks for lunges. It allows me to keep the spine nice and long as I work the action of the back of the front leg in this case. So we'll do a straight leg lunge to begin with. Lift your toes up so your heel's on the mat. You come toward a straight leg and walk your blocks back so that feel really nice and tall. If you don't have blocks, no worries. See if you can get as tall as possible. Now bend your elbows and draw your heart toward your extended foot. Inhale, lift up. Now bend your knee, walk your blocks forward for support of that extended spine as you allow the pelvis to drop down. See if you can get a little bit more of a calf stretch by walking your right foot back a little bit. So now your right knee is forward of your ankle. Just settle in deeper so you're getting quite a stretch to the top of the thigh and the back leg. Come back to the straight leg lunge where you lift your toes up, the heel is down, you walk your blocks back, you draw your heart forward and down. Inhale to lift up, same thing, draw yourself in the low lunge, just kind of seesawing back and forth here. See if you can drop your pelvis a little bit lower while keeping the back toes very firmly pressing down toward the mat. To a straight leg lunge, lift your toes up, Draw your heart forward. So many of us in our yoga practice, have heard ourselves say, I've got the tightest hamstrings in the planet. Or if you haven't heard yourself say that, maybe you've heard other people say that. Inhale, lift yourself up. Come once again to a low lunge. Just walk your right heel back so that you can just draw so that you can get a little bit more stretch in the back of the ankle there, the Achilles tendon. And come back to change sides. Take your left foot forward. And first come to that straight leg lunge by lifting your toes up. Look at your kneecap. See if you can get the kneecap to be more engaged and draw in toward your pelvis. With the toes spread, just draw your heart down toward the extended leg. Inhale, lift your heart up as you bend your knee and draw your pelvis toward the earth. Just soften down. Get a nice lifting quality as you soften toward the earth. And slowly just hinge your way back as you lift your toes up and draw your heart forward. And come up, bend your knee, and drop in again. Just as we just slow down and just enjoy the lunge, maybe spend a little bit more time in this to open the pelvis, to get the length in the backs of the legs as you draw the toes up and draw your heart forward, and just kind of softening in the process. Again, being nice to the hamstrings in this very slow and methodical way is so much more effective than just kind of forcing yourself to go deeper into some straight leg poses. Let's come to a standing pose now. So as you step forward on your mat, and come to a standing pose, step wide on your mat. So turn your right toes out, bend your knee, draw your forearm down to the top of the thigh, take your left arm up and reach it over. Invite length in the side body. Keep your back leg rooting down to rise up. Let's come to the same side with the front leg straight. Draw over into triangle pose, and the same arm movement has you reach your arm over your head. Root down to lift yourself up. Same thing on the opposite side. Turn your right toes in, left toes out. Bend your knee. Take your forearm to the top of the thigh. Reach your right arm up and over. Just enjoy the breath. Just feel how the form of the pose just makes you feel so long on this side. So come toward a straight leg as you draw yourself into a triangle pose, and just receive that nice fullness to the side body again by reaching your arm over your head. From the strength of your back foot, inhale, lift yourself up. Exhale, release your hands down. Come to the front of your mat and stand tall in the front of the mat with your feet hip distance apart. Step your left foot back. Park your left foot back. Press your heel down. Keep your legs straight. Take your hands behind your back and draw your heart forward. As you do, keep the back leg really rooted down nicely. So Another hamstring stretch has us extending from the back heel to the pelvis and from the front heel to the pelvis. Inhale, lift up. Just like we did in the lunge, bend your knee, keep your back heel firm, reach your arms up so you find this fullness. We'll do this 2 more cycles. Place your hands behind your back, come toward a straight leg, and draw forward. Inhale, lift up, bend your front knee, reach your arms up. Exhale, straight leg, draw forward. Inhale, bend your front knee, reach your arms up. Exhale, hands back. And bend your front knee, reach your arms up. Step your back foot forward. Take your right foot back. And just as we did when we were on the floor in the low lunges in Parsvottanasana to Vira 1 variation, you start with a straight leg with your hands behind you and draw forward. Inhale as you bend the front knee to reach your arms up. Exhale as you draw forward. So a lot of hamstring work here, but we want to go very slow as we do it, as we go a little bit deeper. Bend your front knee, and on the inhale, sweep your arms up. On the exhale, draw forward and down. Inhale, bend your knee, reach your arms up. And exhale, release your hands down. Step your back foot forward. So we've done some work to really get your connective tissue just a little bit more hydrated, a little bit more fluid with the bent legs, straight leg, variations both lying on your back, low lunges, and now in standing poses. Let's go down to the floor once again. Come to lie on your back. As you lie on your back, bend your knees. Press your head back, your shoulders back. Lift your pelvis up to get this nice fullness, this nice elongation of the front side of the body. Notice how you have to work your hamstrings by pulling your feet, your heels in toward your heart. You engage the back sides of the leg. Now we'll get kind of a 2-for-1 here in this pose. So let your pelvis just kind of soften toward the mat, but not on the mat. And that makes it much more accessible for you to lift your right leg in the air. So you've got, again, this 2-for-1 action going on. With the right leg lifted, you're pulling your left heel into your heart. To help the fullness of the heart express itself fully, bend your elbows, press your elbows down to lift your right heel higher and soften down just slightly. Do this 2 more times. Press the elbows to get this nice lift as you really work your left leg and soften. And 1 more time. Inhale, lift high. Exhale, soften and release your right foot. Release your pelvis. And with your feet pressing each other, in a prayer pose. Come to Supine. Just pause here for a moment. Just allow yourself to recover nicely. Just get a nice ease to your breath. Now fold the legs in toward one another. Step your feet so that they're hip distance apart. With your heels pressing down, pulling in toward your heart, you start to activate the backs of the legs so that you can easily lift your pelvis up. Extend your left leg in the air and just admire a nice spread to your toes. Keep the right leg very active, pulling in toward your heart as you draw the pelvis down and lift it high. Let's use the arms to help us get even more fullness to the chest. Draw down slightly. Lift up. One more time. Draw down. Lift up. Get that fullness. Release your foot down. Release your pelvis down. Same thing with your feet together. The bottoms of the feet in a prayer pose. Just allow this nice ease to your breath now. A nice softness. In the practice, we were working different variations of the poses. We started in supine poses. We ended in the supine pose. And as you think through the actions that we did, they were pulsing actions. We were doing movement, contraction to expansion, contraction to expansion, to get the fascia, this connective tissue, just to be much more fluid in its movement. As you're ready, you can start to extend your legs out to take the legs in a straight leg position with the floor as your support. Just let your legs surrender, your arms surrender. In this practice, we focused on the backs of our legs to get just a little bit more length. We came to the poses with softness, with ease. Approaching your yoga practice in this way. Just honoring each action. Not forcing the hamstrings to lengthen, but just working with the muscles to draw you into a deeper expression of the poses. Just allow a nice full and even in-breath and a long out-breath. you assimilate the actions, the movements of the legs. You feel, even in this short practice, a bit more awareness, a bit more knowledge. You feel like you know how to practice in order to take you deeper into movements that require greater length in your hamstrings. Feel free to stay in your Savasana, or if you have to move on to the activities of your day, very slowly make your way to a seated posture. Thank you for joining the practice. To the teachings of yoga, we bow. Namaste.